Hey there fam! So today I have another witchier video for y'all because it's a pretty big part of my life and I want to share it. And I'm really excited to. As I say in pretty much every video I think I make, but in all honesty, I am just having so much fun with this channel, you guys. So if you're just here for the ride, thank you, welcome. But yeah, let's talk about this because I have not really talked very much at all on here about my personal path, and maybe some people don't really care, but I am going to talk about a couple of different books today because I'm really excited to. One of my favorite things to do when it comes to nonfiction reading is to read different books about spirituality and witchy topics and things like this that have almost like, you know, coursework to go with them. I am a nerd. I always loved homework in school. I like the structure and a way to organize my thoughts while I'm learning new information. So yeah, and that's basically what I'm going to start doing with the books I want to talk about today. Let's get into it. Alright, y'all. So if you saw my video on nonfiction witchy book recommendations, I said in that video I do not personally identify as Wiccan. That being said, it was very key in the foundations of my own witchy path. Wicca itself it encourages you to seek out all the different spiritual wisdom that you can find, and scientific for that matter, and just create your own path. And that was one of the things that I still appreciate about it, but that I deeply appreciated about it when I found it. And I did that, and so now I just call myself a witch because I don't really have a name for all of the things that I feel and what my path actually is. It's constantly evolving, so it is just my own witchy path. That being said, I do also identify only partially jokingly as a fairy or an elf. There are differences, but that's not what this is about. That being said, that is very important to my path. Working with the fae, working with animal spirits, working with nature. Obviously, working with nature is inherent to being a witch. That's kind of part of witchcraft in general. So that being said, what I really meant is that not every witch works with the fae. Some are actually scared to work with fairies, but to each their own. That's not really part of my path. I've never been scared to work with pretty much any spiritual entity because I have the understanding I do of what different things are, and so far so good. I'm not here to recommend to anyone how to walk their path. I'm just here to share some books with y'all today. And the reason I gave that little back blurb is because the course books that I am getting ready to start, I came across the cover of this one book, which is actually the second in this two book course series that I'm getting ready to start. But I fell in love with the cover. So like I said, this is the second one, so I'm not even here yet, but this cover, I immediately saw it and I was like, like I have done many different types of witchcraft training and been initiated into different pagan circles and traditions and things like that. So I've definitely looked for the fairy witchcraft for myself, but it's so far really just been my own practice and working with the fae as I see fit, as I communicate with them in my own practice and everything like that. But I am really excited for new information, new course material. The author of both of these books is Storm Faerywolf. And so far, I really like his writing. He's almost very poetic in a way, which is really nice, especially when dealing with the fae. But let's talk about this for a second. So this is Betwixt and Between. I actually got this secondhand, which is why it looks so scuffed up, but I love a good scuffy book. But this is the first book, and this is kind of introducing the branch of fairy witchcraft that Storm Faerywolf and I believe his partner, if I remember right. I read some of that back information quite some time ago, but yeah, the fairy tradition that they practice, and I'm really excited about it. It seems very much like something that would align to me personally. And something that also really resonated is one of the things on the back here when it's telling you the kind of stuff that you're going to learn in the book is called Summoning the Fairy Fire. And that is literally like a part of one of my nicknames that I also adopted for myself. It's part of one of my pagan names. And I saw that and I was like, wow, what is that? So I, of course, just like read a little bit about the beginning of what he was talking about. And yeah, it just totally resonated. But it's basically just what he's referring to as like almost like what some people would call your chi, right? Your life force energy that fire that you work up when you are doing magic. But I just like loved the terminology. Now this one, like I said, the cover was just like, oh, so good. But when I started diving into this one, when I got it a while ago, I started getting into it and I realized I really needed to go through the first part because he's kind of talking more about your basics for this particular tradition in this book. And in this one, he's talking about like diving deeper, and it's a lot of like shadow work, underworld kind of stuff. And it gets very like he even talks about demons in here and kind of the association between the fae and the demons and the fae and the dead and all of these things. And I know some people are going to see this and be like, fairies, what? But no, okay, if you look up old school fairy legends, the fae are terrifying, and some of them really don't like people. Why would you want to work with something like that? Well, because some of them are benevolent. And for the most part, the way I see it is that the fae are not specifically nature spirits, but in some cases they are. In some cases, they're just spirits that have never had bodies. And in some cases, maybe they are, it's just another term that people used to use for the dead. Really, we don't know what fae are. And I'm not just talking about in Irish lore, where like that word actually comes from, and Celtic countries and things like that. Because if you look anywhere on this planet, every culture that has ever existed and does still exist has some version of fairy tales, right? Even if they don't call them fairies, because there are many different, fairy is an umbrella term. There are many different types of fae. And so if you look at all of these things, something is going on, whatever you want to call it. And these things do seem to be very connected to the natural world. That is different than them being specifically like the spirits that are in each individual tree or the spirit of place. Okay, these are different things, but technically I don't personally care. Like I will even myself sometimes lump them all in kind of the same umbrella term because it is just that. It's we don't know what exactly they are. We know that many different types of spirits have been referred to in the same way that fairies and the fae have been referred to. And a lot of the lore in these places can be really dark and really scary. I wasn't going to actually talk about this book today with my little Nomi. But it's right here next to my altar because it is also one that I have been going through and reading and taking my time with because this one was written, gosh, what, like early 1900s or maybe late 1800s? It's an old book. Hang on, I'm going to check right now. Originally published in 1911. So, this is The Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries by Walter Yilling Evans-Wentz. I think I said that last name right. So I actually ordered this a while ago. And like I said, I've been taking my time getting through it because it's very dense and it was written a long time ago. So it's kind of a lot, but I am loving it, you guys, because it is talking about basically, the author of this book went around to all the different Celtic countries. So Ireland, oh my God, Wales, Britain, and of course Scotland. And I think he might have, I'd have to double check, but I think he might have dipped his toe in a few other areas as well in that kind of region. But he really went through all of these countries and asked for personal stories or like lore that had been passed from family members or and keep in mind he wrote this in he published it in 1911, so he did this like around the turn of the century. And so these were like, there are still people in those parts of the world who very much believe in the Fae. The fairy faith is a literal thing. You can look it up if you've never heard of it before. But back then, people, like pretty much everyone, still believed in the Fae. And that belief has really fascinatingly not evolved much, at least to my understanding. I'm still learning. But at least to what I've researched so far, that understanding of the Fae has not really changed much from like pagan times, even through like all of Christianity. Christians themselves still very much believe in the Fae. But the opinion of who the Fae are, what they are, has shifted so much through countless centuries. So it's really interesting stuff to look into this, you guys. So yeah, I would recommend, if you are into witchy stuff and this sounds interesting, I would definitely recommend going ahead and picking up your own copy of this book, because so far what I have been getting into with this, it's, if you vibe with the Fae, if you are not one of those light only kind of witchy practitioners and you acknowledge and embrace the darkness as well, because it is half of existence and should not be locked away, that's really where it becomes dangerous. If anything that I just said is kind of your thing and vibes with you in any way, or you're just interested, I would highly recommend getting this book. If you're just curious in general about fairy lore, especially like the people who actually called it fairies, you know, in Celtic countries, definitely would recommend this. Like I said, it is very dense, but it's fascinating. He took like personal firsthand accounts and the combinations, comparing them in all these different countries. It's just such an interesting study on this topic. So let's get into the next part of what I wanted to share with you in this video. Today, which, by the way, as of when I'm recording this, is the full moon in Libra in 2023. So I have been going through various things in my personal life all winter, and it's been intense. So today, before I went to work, I went ahead and stopped by the park near my house here in the city, where my favorite willow tree since before I even lived in this city has stood. And one reason that I fell in love with this tree, guys, is because it had this huge branch that just kind of like, or not even a branch, like part of the trunk just went like this into the water, and you could sit on the hump and just meditate and hang out in the curtains of this beautiful tree. Well, I went there today, and I intended to hang out in it for a minute and ask for a wand, and I got my wand. It was naturally fallen, but the entire tree itself fell, I believe, in a storm that happened yesterday. It looked pretty fresh. So that was really difficult. I was really sad about that. But I had a lot of friends tell me that it's okay, because apparently that's why willows are associated with immortality, along with many other things, and healing and stuff like that, because it fell in the water. And so it's probably going to be fine. It's going to grow new willow sprouts, and maybe we'll have even more willows. Maybe it'll turn into a willow grove, and wouldn't that be the most magical thing ever? So all that rambling out of the way, hope this isn't too overwhelming for you all, but so I got my wand. Now for those who are unfamiliar, your wand traditionally should be basically, hang on, let me straighten up my hand, should be basically from your elbow to the tip of your middle finger. Like that's about the length that you want a wand to be. And willow is a really good wand, one, because as you can see, it has almost this perfect handle. It's like perfect for gripping. But also it is a tree of flexibility. It is a tree of, like I said, immortality and healing. Yes, it can help people who are grieving, but it's also heavily associated with the goddess, with emotions, with renewal and rebirth. All of these things. as well as working with the fairy realm. So, for all of those reasons, I wanted my own willow wand. To be honest, I've wanted my own willow wand for a very long time. I've been a witch for 20 years. So I've been basically wanting a willow wand from day one, but I also wanted a wand from a willow that I had built a relationship with. And I'm really glad that I went on the day that I did. It was kind of perfect. It was like, oh, it literally just fell, like something shifted. It just feels, and now I get to have a piece of that specific tree with me in my magical practice. So I'm sorry for being really rambly in this video, but I'm very excited. So yes, I am going to craft this into a wonderful wand, and I have this stone that I'm going to put on the end of it, and I haven't even decided everything that I am going to do necessarily with this particular wand here, because I could go all out and really deck it out, and I might do that, but I think it's probably going to take me a little while, because I'm thinking I'm going to wire wrap various stones to it, possibly use some clay, but I've done that before and it hasn't really come out great. But I have this beautiful silver wire here that I'm going to be using, and yeah, so in future videos you will probably see, if you would like, I can update you and show y'all my finished project. But I just wanted to share that with y'all because it was a really special moment for me today, and who knows who might see this that could get something from it. Also, the Libra full moon is all about healing and focusing on various relationships in your life. Romantic, friendship, familial, whatever, right? And a friend just gifted me this candle the other day. Let me get the glare off of it so you can see, but it's so pretty, like the purple and blue in there. It's literally such a gorgeous candle. And you know what is awesome about this is, again, in this particular tradition of witchcraft that I am diving into now, one of the tools that they recommend, that Storm Faerywolf recommends you get, is the Star Goddess candle. And I just thought, like, the purple, and wow, I wish the glare wasn't on it so bad. There you go. But it kind of makes me think of almost like a purple peacock a little bit. It's really pretty, and I think it also really matches this cover in a magical way. And that was gifted to me, like, right as I've decided that, like, now is the time. I'm always cautious about when I want to start a new course, because I don't want to start something and not finish it, especially not with stuff like this that I take very seriously. So yeah, it was just like such a, like, everything falls into place as it needs to, y'all. So keep that in mind. I love y'all very much. I hope you have a wonderful full moon. Blech, I can't talk anymore. I am going to get to my own ritual for the evening in a little while, and I'm going to start working on my new wand. If you have your own witchy tips or things to add, or fairy witchcraft book recommendations, I am always down for new recommendations in general. Talk to me. Are you also a witch? Are you into any of this, or is it just kind of weird or kind of interesting to you? Let's discuss. Keep it friendly. Remember, these paths are personal, so if it's not your thing, that's totally cool. No pressure. Regardless, thank you for being here. And if you did like it, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you to everyone who has so far. I really appreciate it, y'all. And I will see y'all very soon. Happy full moon.